What's up everybody, my name is Professor Nova, you can call me Nova, and welcome back to the channel. This is episode 2 of 3 of how to build a gaming PC. Now today's episode is all about putting this thing together. Last episode was all about unboxing, showing you all the bits and bobs, all the pieces and parts, and we're going to be putting together in this episode. I'm going to go over in great detail everything that I have and try to make your life a little easier whenever you start building out your PC. So we're going to go ahead and get our motherboard on top of its box or in a place where it's easily accessible for you to work. We're going to locate those internal SSD slots. I have 2, but I'm just going to be using 1 for this build. Go ahead and take those screws out. I'm going to go ahead and pop the lid off and show you what it's like on the inside. So we got that cover off. Make sure that you locate this thermal pad and take the plastic off. This is going to make sure that your hard drive doesn't overheat and it has proper coverage when it comes to cooling. Alright, so we're going to take our SSD right here. It does come with a screw, but most motherboards come with them pre-installed. It just depends on what you want to use as installation hardware. Now go ahead and take your SSD, put it in at a 45-degree angle, wiggle those pins into the insert, make sure that those pins are not visible anymore, and when you get it in, it should look a little floppy. It should bounce up and bounce down. If you do it right, then it should stay up maybe at a 20-degree angle. Make sure you push it down to align that screw hole and go ahead and install it with the screw. After that, we're going to take our cover, put it back on with the 2 screws on each side, make sure they line up. Whenever I'm putting screws in, I like to back the screw out a little bit to make sure that I don't cross thread the screw. When you're tightening this down, you don't have to be the Hulk. You don't have to tighten it with all your might. Just make sure it's nice and firm. And when you get done, give it a love tap to ensure quality. We're going to move on to the CPU. This is going to be the brain of the system. This is what's going to make your system actually process information. In the last episode, I showed you that we are using a Ryzen 7 7700. I have an AMD board that is going to match up with the pins. Whenever we look at the CPU, there should be a little arrow at the top left corner indicating which direction it needs to be. There is also an arrow on the motherboard that just needs to line up with that CPU. Just drop it in, and this is the fun part right here. Line that bad boy up, push the spring down. If it makes a couple of cracking sounds, that means you're doing it right. Make sure that pin goes under the holster and take the plastic cover off. Wow, that looks good. Do a little dancey dance for y'all. Alright, so next on the list is going to be the RAM. So we're going to count it out. We have 4 slots, and most, if not all installations, call for you to count it out as not 1, 2, 3, 4, but it goes 1, 2, 1, 2. And you could have 1A or 1B. So those slots need to correspond with your RAM. I like to put mine into the second slot, so I'll be using 2A and 2B. It does only go in one direction, so once you get it in, for 1 thumb on each side, and push it down nice and firm, enough for it to click into place. Now we're going to take a look at these mounting brackets for the CPU cooler. You could be mounting a pump, or you could just be mounting a regular fan system like I am, but more time than not, you're going to have to change these brackets out. Some motherboards are made for specific coolers, or if you get lucky, your motherboard could come with its own cooler. But for me, I'm going to have to make a little modification to these brackets. So once you get it tightened down, make sure that your cooler lines up with the brackets. And oh man, that's going to be our first blunder of this build. Now I did this to show you that everyone is human, everyone's going to mess up, but my cooler did not line up the first time. So we're going to have to take it back apart and modify it just a little bit more to fit this cooler. I had to put 4 standoffs, and I had to bend the brackets towards the inside. This is going to allow the cooler to mount properly and sit flush with the CPU. Now it is time for the scariest part of any computer build, in my opinion. That is going to be using the thermal paste. We're not going to be using the thermal paste that came with the system. We're going to be using this Corsair XTM60. This is a high intensive thermal paste, and it is going to ensure that my system stays cool. Just make a decision on your part what you want to use. This thermal paste right here, honestly, I'm going to give it to it. I probably should have used the thermal paste that came with my system. This thermal paste was a big issue trying to smear out properly. I tried using this little stick. I tried using the pad that it came with in the box. Nothing worked. So here I am. People are going to yell at me for this. I just smeared it out with my finger, enough to have an even coating across that CPU. But now, to put the icing on the cake, let's go ahead and install this cooler. Now make sure your screws are nice and tight on each side, going back and forth from the back side to the front side. Don't screw it down too tight. These screws should have springs on them, and when you get them tight enough and they don't move anymore, it's time to stop. I went ahead and put the fans on, and I have the wires pulled out. 2 of them are going to be LEDs, 2 of them are going to be power, and I'm just testing them out right now, plugging them into their correct slots. We're going to take this monster and we're going to go ahead and install it into the tower. When you get your motherboard inside, you're going to want to push it towards the back of the tower, making sure that all of your ports are flush with the back of the tower. You might have to give it a little help with a little manual persuasion, and it should fit right in. After you get your motherboard installed properly, you're going to want to look for that little box that came with the PC tower full of those little screws. You're going to look for every single little screw hole in this motherboard and put a screw in. Some may be a little harder to locate, but just keep a good eye out. Now we're going to lift up this PC and show you where we are in the build. I would say that this is practically 3/4 done. We have the motherboard, we have the processor, we have the cooler, we have the RAM, and the case. After this, there are only a couple more items we need to add before starting this computer up. Number one is going to be the power supply. How are you going to get power to your system? You can't just plug it into a wall and everything starts up. It all goes to this power supply. Make sure you find the proper mounting area for this power supply. It should come with its own screws. My PC case came with the screws, so I didn't have to use the mounting screws that came with the power supply. Now it is time to wire this bad boy up. Look how many there are. So many small little wires for this whole system. Now would be a good time for me to tell you that if you're doing a PC test, the wires that you want to go ahead and plug in is the CPU power, the motherboard power, and the CPU fans. That should be all that you need to go ahead and power up your system just for a test benchmark to make sure that everything communicates with each other, everything is going to work with each other. Because past this point, it is the point of no return. Once you get everything installed, it's installed.
What's up, guys? We had to come back a few days later. I did some cable management here, and we're going to finish up the last couple things before we try to start this thing up.
Now, I'm not going to show you where all these plugs go in this video, but please refer to your manual, refer to the product's website. Let them show you where all of these plugs go. It is pretty self-explanatory to an extent, but everyone is going to have a different motherboard. Everybody's going to have a different power supply. Just refer to the manual and you'll be alright. Now we're moving on to the second to last product we are going to be putting in this computer. This is the external SSD, and it installs very easily. We already have 2 empty spots ready to go. It is held on by 1 screw. We're just going to pop that out, and when we take this out, all we need are 4 screws to hold this baby in place. Now it's time for the installation of this SSD, and we are able to install it sideways due to how this case is made. But just for this build, I want to be able to show you where the wires go, and it being vertical will give me the best viewpoint and perspective. So hooking this hard drive up, it comes with 2 different cables. One is power, one is communication, and I'll show you the difference in those 2 cables. It looks like it's one big cable, but it's not. So we're going to go ahead and take that first cable. That is going to be the communication cable with your storage device and the motherboard. It does have a little metal clip on one side, and it should only go in one way. We're going to slip that in. Tuck it into the back. Most of them come with a straight cable. Mine luckily came with a 90-degree cable, but it's going to plug up in that little rectangle right there. You're able to plug in 4 actually to this motherboard, but I'm not going to use anywhere near that amount of storage. We're going to go ahead and tuck that cable to the side, and I will show you what the power cable is to this hard drive. This cable is called a SATA cable, and it comes in a line of maybe 4 or 5 different plugs. I've already used one for the front panel of the PC, where the USBs and the Type-Cs are. But we're going to take this and we're going to plug it in right beside that communication cable. Take 2 thumbs and just push it in enough to hear a click. And with that said, we're going to take these wires, bundle them up, tuck them in there properly, make sure all of our cables are managed properly. We want this thing to look gorgeous whenever we get done with it. Alright, here's the moment we've all been waiting for. This is the GPU installation. So we are looking at the side of this GPU, counting out how many brackets we have to take out of this back section for it to be able to slide in there properly. Mine is going to be 3 high, so I'm going to take out 3 of these little panels in the back. But only after we have a wonderful time ripping off this plastic. Honestly, best thing in a PC build, getting all that plastic off your new PC parts. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull the shell off of this thing and show you. We have 2 ports here. One is going to be for power, one is going to be for LED RGBs. And we're going to go ahead and plug this thing in while we have it outside of the case. Now, I did have a couple of issues with this GPU only because it comes with 3 power connectors. I only had 2 readily available to me, and for most GPUs they only come with maybe 1 or 2. This one unfortunately came with 3, and I didn't bring an extra PCIe plug for the power. So you'll see that at the end of this video, what happened, what I had to do to fix this issue. Plugged in the LED RGB lights, and let's go ahead and get this cover back on this monster of a GPU. So now we have our GPU all sized up. We're going to go ahead and take these platelets out of the back side of our case so we can slip our GPU in nice and snug. Make sure not to misplace the screws because we are going to be using them in just a moment. Now that we have those platelets out, go ahead and slide your GPU into place, making sure that that port goes into the slot correctly. Make sure to keep your wires out of the way. And it should just slide right into place.
Nice.
Now this GPU did come with its own personal sag bracket, so we're going to take a second and go ahead and install that alongside with the same screws that came out of those side platelets. So now we're moving on to the power plugs for the GPU. Again, I was missing that one, and you'll see in just a second that I only plug in 2, hoping that it would work, but unfortunately it did not. So be mindful of how many power ports are on your GPU, and make sure you plug them into the correct slot into your power supply. Now, finally, with everything put together, all of our cables are managed, everything is plugged up, ready to go, I believe we are ready to test this system. I believe we're ready to plug this up to a monitor, switch the power on, and get this thing rolling. So if you would just give me a minute, I'm going to show off the final build. This is what it's going to look like in the end. This everything put together, fully installed from start to finish. This wonderful gaming PC. Wow, isn't that something? I'd like to take this time to thank you for joining me in this video. Thank you for watching me put this thing together. I hope it helps you in the future, but stay tuned because the next episode is us taking care of problems and troubleshooting this machine. See you in the next one!